Hello, it's Bonnie Southgate, hEDSRehab. I wanted to do some videos for Pilates teachers, and also if you do have hypermobility or hypermobility syndrome. I wanted to actually provide some resources if you were to go and attend a Pilates class or a one-to-one Pilates session, for yourself to take to your teacher or to suggest that maybe that they watch. So little tiny tidbits that I use to help my clients, we can give to you. So I thought what I'd do is a series of videos on the equipment, because actually I tend to work on the Pilates equipment with my hEDS clients rather than the mat work. I feel like the equipment gives feedback to the body in a way that you can't get on your own. It's closed chain exercises, it gives you resistance, but the resistance can be taken down so it's less than body weight, so it can make movements that maybe in standing you wouldn't actually be able to do accessible for you. So I'll take you through some of the different exercises and some of my absolute favorites. And I'm sitting on what we call a reformer. So that is a lovely bit of Pilates equipment, and we've got spring resistance here, and you can adjust that. And basically what we're doing on the reformer, we do what we call footwork, is a series of what would be like a squat in standing, but you're lying down. So if you've got POTS or if you've got other issues in being upright, you can accommodate that by being lying down. And so you can start to strengthen things up in a much more, an easier way for your system. So you're not challenging the system in terms of just being upright. So it can be a really effective way of starting to get those muscles working a little bit better and responding a little bit better when they're not challenged. So in terms of specifics for people who have EDS or HSD, some of the things that I find that can be problematic and can make a difference is you can have a quite sensitized nervous system. So lying down on the normal reformer can be a little bit too firm. So I often will use some balance pads, which I'll get from here. So these balance pads are really quite useful, and I'll put them here and here, and then I'll have to get some head cushions as well. So you just need to make sure that you have enough head cushions, so that when the person is lying down that they're nicely cushioned. And I found that this works really well for any of my oversensitized clients. If it's difficult for them to get on and off, then sometimes I'll have it with the Pilates reformer. You can have an insert here, so it's like a complete bed, and then you can roll the person in. So I'm going to be lying on my back, and it's just a really lovely way for people to start getting the motion of using their legs going in and out. And like I said, you can adjust the weight. For those of you who are Pilates teachers, it might seem like a very light weight, but I often will start them on 1.5 springs, just so they get the feel of the movement of the reformer going in and out. And for some people that's enough, particularly if they've been bedridden for a long time and they really are deconditioned. And then we can just start to build from there. So obviously each client is different. So there are certain things that I really watch out for in the reformer. So obviously if we take you into your P first, or your Pilates first position, we need to watch the angle of the ankles. So what I will see, I'm going to take my shoes off. What I see sometimes with clients coming in, or if you do take Pilates classes, things that you might not have been told that you want to think about is that your ankles, the bony bits of your ankles, which we call the medial malleolus, are never touching or hitting. So if you do that, you've taken the angle of your foot in a pronated, not a great position. So we want to keep that positioning good. So I will often cue the clients to bring their feet on the foot bar, hip width apart, knees apart, and I tell them to take the knees open until their heels come together, so they get that kind of positioning without collapsing in the ankles, which can be really hard for them. And then I also cue that when they come in and out on the reformer, that they feel that the fold is not on the outside of the ankle, but the fold is more on the inside of the ankle, and that also seems to take them out of overpronation. So important things to think about is that if their feet are really difficult to correct, I do not correct them, because like anyone else, you can have either things being driven down the chain or up the chain. So if I can't correct a bit of the body easily, I do not force it. If I've had a dislocated shoulder and that's taken me into a rotation, I might have a leg that hangs longer, and trying to correct that might create a torsion in the middle of the chain. So if I generally, in terms, the general rule for me is if you correct something and something else then looks like it's not lined up well, then I don't do that correction. So when you correct a bit of the body on the equipment or in mat work or anything, and any other bit of the body responds by moving into a non-optimal position, I do not correct that, because that joint is being driven from somewhere else. If you make a correction on the body, it should always make things look better. It should never make anything else work. And that's a really big rule for me in terms of correcting, because I see sometimes teachers will correct the feet and then it makes something else up the chain look wrong, and then you get them putting balls in between knees and tying bands around. So by the end, they've got this kind of person trussed up like a turkey ready to go in the oven. And in actual fact, it can be extremely frustrating for that client, because they're trying to make the change that the teacher is saying and they can't actually do it because that joint is being driven into that position. So just be really aware of that. Hypermobiles, or people with hypermobility syndromes, often do collapse in their ankles, so there is often a need for that that sort of correcting of the feet. But like I said, if you find that it's really difficult, then you may need to make tweaks elsewhere. So always looking at not having hyperextension at the knees, because that will alter the feet, and a real sense of dropping the heels towards the ground when they set up. They might have a tendency to hold because of where the bones sit. So really trying to get a fold or dorsiflexion of the ankles is great. And then you just do your footwork as normal. So taking them through all the different positions is fine. So the P first, the wrapped toes and the heels wide. All of these are great positions. Things to watch out for again will be the hips. There is a dominance often in the TFL, and the hips often don't tend to want to fold nicely. So I often will start my clients off as the teacher. I will put hands on the hips and I will draw the tissue wide to try and take out the internal rotation from the TFL, and I might get them using the reformer, and I'll help them when they come in to make space for the hips. So I get very hands-on with these clients, and that can often take them out of pain when they're making the movements into flexion, and can really improve things. So one of my top exercises is footwork for your hypermobile client of all times. I hope that you can find this useful and use it with your hypermobile clients. And I will, like I say, do a whole series of little videos talking about little tips that you can use for your clients. And if you are somebody with a hypermobility syndrome, please do think about trying to find an equipment-based Pilates class, because you will find that it strengthens you and that you can start to exercise in a very controlled way that might really make a difference for your body. So thank you for watching. It's Bonnie Southgate, hEDSRehab, and hope you all have a great day.